Give me big old buckets of butterbeer. Give me big old barrels of butterbeer. Give me the drink I love so dear. And another round for my friend right here of the sweet old butter beer.
Welcome to the Three Broomsticks. We invite you to pull up a chair, grab a butterbeer, and settle in for a hearty discussion about Harry Potter. I'm Irvin Cateman.
I'm Sophia Jenkins.
And I'm Ev McLaughlin.
And with us, once again today, is Leen Eaglund. Did I say that right?
Almost, but yeah, it's fine.
How do I say it right?
Line Egelund.
Lena Ealund.
Beautiful.
Okay. All right, with us today is Lena Ealund. Back for part 2 of our discussion all about Draco's Detour. So good to still have you with us.
Thank you for still having me.
Yeah. And today, for episode 59, we are continuing to discuss the 138th chapter of the Harry Potter series, Draco's Detour. Chapter 6 of Half-Blood Prince. It's very good fun. We had way too much to talk about last week, so we're just gonna keep it going. We encourage you to, I guess, listen to part 1 of this discussion before diving into part 2. And we have some recommended reading. Borgin, Burke, and the Half-Blood Prince, written by myself, 8 years ago, yikes. We're going to link to all about the objects that Harry and Draco encounter in Borgin and Burke's. And before we kick off, we want to give a huge thanks to Lori Young over on our Patreon, who bought this round of drinks at the pub. Yay!
Thank you, Lori!
Listeners, if you'd like to buy us around at the pub, please head over to patreon.com/3broomsticks with the numeral 3 to sign up. We're offering bonus content, chats with the hosts, and on-episode shoutouts, and lots more, too, for our patrons. We'd really appreciate your help in keeping the lights on at the Three Broomsticks, so we can talk about Harry Potter and Draco Malfoy for a long time to come.
And dreary.
Yeah.
And, oh my, we're gonna need a few more Patreon contributions before we get to that.
If anyone wants us to have a dreary Patreon, then sign up and suggest it.
And honestly, who wouldn't?
Exactly.
Before we continue detouring with Draco to all sorts of amazing places, let us offer a toast to the comments on episode 56. That was our episode about safety and security at Hogwarts, such as it is.
Or isn't, rather.
So we'd like to raise our glass to commenter Books and Magic, which is one of our new commenters, so welcome, who said, the Master Carrot idea made me think about potion ingredients. Do you think they can duplicate them ad infinitum, or does duplicating them make them less and less effective? I imagine food would become less nutritious with every copy you make. Otherwise, why wouldn't they have used it while camping in Deathly Hallows? What do you guys think?
This is a really interesting one. I mean, I have wondered about parts of this. I mean, what Ron says in Deathly Hallows is, like, don't bother making more of this, it's disgusting. So maybe that they just didn't have very much good food to replicate. But when they did have good food, yeah, why didn't they just replicate it? Maybe they didn't know the good refrigerating spells. I don't know. But with potions ingredients, I kind of assume that you can't, just because there is a real emphasis on, like, running, like, that, I don't know, that, I know, there are a few moments where, like, for example, we see Slughorn going to the greenhouses and saying, like, oh, these leaves are best if picked at this time of day, or whatever, and I think clearly you can't just forever replicate them, or, yeah, I think it's a really good question. I don't know. I don't really have an answer to that.
Well, they also have the apothecary in Diagon Alley where every year they go and they buy potions ingredients. So if you could replicate them, maybe they wouldn't need to. So I kind of assumed that you can't replicate them.
Yeah. And I think the whole replication of food is a flawed theory, because if you can just replicate even ingredients, simple ingredients, then there wouldn't be any hunger in the world. You would just be able to replicate. So I think there is a
I guess only
definite
Muggles are
limitation
hungry.
to it.
Yeah, we don't hear about hunger in the Wizarding world, so...
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. But, so Ev and I were actually, like, talking about this in the comments on the episode, but my suggestion is that you can duplicate, like, the ingredients, but they lose their, like, magical efficacy. Like, that's something you can't, duplicate. So, like, you would have another, horn of a unicorn, and it would, like, look like a horn, it would, like, feel like a horn, like, the shape, the size, the color, but it wouldn't have, like, the inherent magic that, like, does something in a potion. It would just be, like, sort of, throwing a plastic horn in, like, for all the good it'll do.
Yeah, so you
that's
could
sort
have
of
a potato
my
is
read on
just
it.
a potato, so you could easily duplicate that.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes total sense. Yeah, thank you for that.
But only
because
once,
that
right?
does
So
make-
you would have 10 potatoes that you can duplicate, and then have 20 potatoes, but you cannot take the new 10 potatoes and duplicate. Then they would lose their... They would sort of thin out if you would
I don't
duplicate them
know.
more than once.
I don't know why you couldn't.
Is my thought.
Maybe. I'm not
Lose the
sure.
potato-ness.
Yes, exactly. Lose their sustenance, it would become fast food.
What is the
Yeah,
essence
I'm
of the
not
potato?
But like
Oh, that starchy goodness.
when like Hermione creates like a flock of birds from thin air or whatever, like, I don't know. It's not like they're
Could
not
you
all
fry 'em up?
birds. What?
Could you fry them up, is the question.
Oh, they were only little. There wouldn't be much eating on them.
Yeah.
People eat hamsters out in the world, so...
Do they? Oh.
yeah,
I was happier
yeah.
not knowing that.
Sorry.
Yeah, Irvin, I totally agree with you on the potions ingredients and losing their magical properties. I'm not sure if I agree with the idea that like you can't infinitely replicate a potato. I don't know.
I just feel like you're messing with the balance of the world if you could just infinitely replicate or duplicate simple ingredients. That would, but then again, the Weasleys are poor but never down on food.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
don't know. It
might
just
just
seems
be-
like a flawed theory.
That might just be because they make decisions with their finances that prioritize food
true.
to the detriment of other things, which, it happens in the Muggle world as well.
So with the, I guess my question is, are you saying that, okay, with the Master Carrot, let's say, could you have the Master Carrot and infinitely duplicate, like, you could duplicate the Master Carrot over and over and over and over again, but you can't take one of your duplicates and continue to duplicate it? Is that kind of what you're saying, or?
Yes,
Okay,
because
so that
at one
comes
point
out
that
to
carrot
kind of the
will be
same
rotten.
thing. No, but the carrot could be, like, magically,
Preserved.
preserved, couldn't it? I mean, we don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it can't. But, like, at the very least, there are going to be magical refrigerating spells. Maybe it's
Well,
not,
there's
like,
Glacius,
preserved
so
forever.
could freeze the carrot.
Yeah, but freezing a carrot is that it makes it explode. It's not great.
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe it's like you can refrigerate the carrot magically, but you can't keep it, like, forever. So you need to get new carrots, but for the length of time you have that carrot, you can duplicate it as much as you want.
Oh,
Yeah.
Also,
And the-
I will say that Glacius is not canonical.
Right, I was
Like,
going to
that's
say
from
too.
the video games.
Oh, fine. Yeah, but it also depends on how you define the duplication, because if somebody's duplicating something and the only thing that they're really duplicating is the outward appearance, then there is no reason why it would retain it nutritional or, in case of potions ingredients, magical properties. So it might look the part, but it wouldn't necessarily taste the part or, have the properties of how it's supposed to be. And
I think it's likelier to taste the part, but maybe not have the nutrition. Like, you would just sort of basically be eating quite literally empty calories at that point.
No, I think, I mean, the sort of evidence that we have is, for example, like, Harry makes more of whatever, like, drink that Hagrid and Slughorn are drinking, and they continue to get drunk off of it. It's not that it just tastes like alcohol. They actually are getting drunker as they continue to drink it, for example.
I actually thought that was a
true.
different spell, because he's just sort of refilling it with whatever was. But yeah, that makes sense.
But isn't that kind of the
But it's
same
the same
thing as
concept. You're just-
duplicating? Yeah.
Yeah, you're making
Yeah,
more.
it
making
makes so
more
much
of it,
sense.
yeah.
I just always considered it a different spell, which now that you say it makes no sense that I didn't think of this.
Yeah, so I think that and like when Hermione explains the rules about food and magic, she says that you can make more of something. She's not like, well, you can make more of it, but then you don't actually get any nutrition from it. So I think you can. I think probably it's just like there's no way to keep your food good forever. I mean, maybe there is, maybe there isn't, we don't know. So you probably do eventually have to get new ingredients. But, yeah.
I think you could. I'm gonna stick with you can make more once, and then not make. I mean, you can duplicate what you have infinitely, but you cannot necessarily keep it fresh. But you cannot duplicate a duplication.
But
It's
there's
like cloning
nothing...
a clone. It doesn't work.
But it does work. Like, you could absolutely clone a clone, and I think you could absolutely duplicate a duplicate. Like, there's no inherent property in a master carrot that makes it, like, duplicable versus a copy. Like, there's no evidence for that.
I
Right,
think you're
like-
more likely to introduce mistakes the more you duplicate something off the copy of a copy of a copy. So that way it can end up being worse, depending on your skill as a wizard, I would say.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'd say Ron would be terrible at that. Mrs. Weasley would be better. Because she's good at domestic magic.
Yeah. That was a very fun discussion. I feel like we're just gonna sort of keep going around on the Master Carrot here at the Three Broomsticks, like, for many years to come.
Well, to be fair, we do have, I think, in the works for later in the year, we do have a food episode planned, I think.
Oh, we
Yeah,
do?
I think
It's
The return of the Master Carrot.
Yeah, so I think that is definitely something we need to bring up. And thank you, Books and Magic, for commenting and leaving your thoughts there. So we would definitely return to the Master Card in the food episode for
Yes.
sure.
Yeah. All right. Then I guess let's dive back into the chapter discussion. So we're here to talk about the economics of wand makers, right?
Oh, God.
When you
Are
have-
we? I thought it was Draco's detour. We haven't even made it to the detour.
Fine. All right. Then we are starting chapter 2 with, we're actually starting part 2 with number 2, You Know Pooh.
And do you know why that is? That's because this is who's sponsoring today's episode. Why are you worrying about you-know-who when you should be worrying about you-know-poo, the constipation sensation that's gripping the nation? So you might guess that we have made, finally, we made it to Weasley's Whizard Wheezes. And we couldn't
Yay!
not use this advertisement because it's pretty much ready-made in the chapter. So thank you.
Can I tell you guys a funny
Thank
story?
you, Weasley's Whizard Wheezes, for sponsoring us with this amazing product.
So when I first read this book, and I was like, I don't know how old I was, probably like 9, and I didn't know what the word constipation
Oh my
was.
god, you're so young.
I didn't know what the word constipation was, and I like did not get this joke for the first several read-throughs of this book. Every time I'd be like, wait, what are they? They're just saying that you know who sounds kind of like you know poo. Like, I didn't even get there was a product they were selling or anything. I was just like, I don't get it. Like, it's clearly supposed to be funny. I don't. I was just like. So, yes, when I got older and learned what constipation was, I was like, oh, okay. Now I get it.
I love that.
That is probably the most wholesome story about constipation I've ever heard.
Absolutely.
Thank you for sharing your constipation story, Sophia.
You're welcome.
I'm really trying to think how they translated it into Danish, and I think they did a crappy job, and I don't think there was any poo humor. But I honestly
But it
cannot
was a
remember
crappy
the translation
job?
right now.
I never thought about that.
I think it was... Brilliant.
So this is going to be a very literary and highbrow discussion,
Yes,
I
absolutely.
can already tell.
From carrots to constipation. But fortunately, that's not the only piece of merch that there is on sale in Weasley Whizard Wheezes.
No,
Yeah,
there is so much merch. And yeah, honestly, like, I could just, like, sit there reading about all their products and, like, this is so much fun for me.
Totally.
So one of my takeaways is that Nosebleed Nougat is the most popular skiving snack box. And I read that and I was like, yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Because I'd much rather take that one than, like, the puking pastille.
Totally. Yeah.
It's the least unpleasant one, I think, for somebody to use it to get out of school.
And what's
Yes,
also
but
nice
if you-
about it is that if you have something you want to do later in the day that's fun or whatever, that, like, nobody's gonna be like, what? Like, you were puking earlier. Like, why are you at Quidditch practice? Why are you at whatever? Or even if there's a different class that you like better, it's not like your teachers are gonna be like, what? Like, you know, I saw you puking down the hallway. It's just like, yeah, I had a nosebleed and now I'm over it. It's very easy to brush off.
Yeah.
That's true, but if you've had 5 nosebleeds within the last fortnight, then you need something else, another excuse if you need to get out again. And puking pastel would work very well if you just gotten a new book and all you want to do is just stay in bed and read.
That's true. Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like for that I might want the fainting fancy.
Yeah.
But you can't
But the
control, like,
fainting
where you're
fancy
gonna
would
faint.
all-
You're gonna hit your head or something.
Yes, and fainting would potentially land you in the hospital wing because that's slightly more serious than puking.
Where you can read all day.
Exactly.
I think
Yeah, that's
fever
true.
fever fudge sounds good because you can just have someone, like, put their hand to your forehead and be like, oh my god, you're burning up. Go, you know,
Yes.
take some medicine, whatever. And then, yeah.
Yeah.
Also, fudge
Yeah,
tastes
you're
nice.
right.
At least
That's
I hope
true.
it does.
I haven't had great fudge.
Yeah.
But still
Oh,
better than puking, so
I've-
yeah.
I've never
I was
thought
at a
about-
convention last weekend, and I got dill-flavored fudge, and it is so good.
You got
Dill
what flavor?
flavored fudge.
Yeah.
Oh,
Ew. Gross.
Interesting.
Dill is to me something that you eat with fish or pour in cream, what is it called, sour cream, and then you have a dip.
Like
Mhm.
pickles. Okay, Irvin. Interesting.
Strange.
Interesting.
And they do mean
I-
every flavor fudge.
Yeah. I had never thought before of, like, what are the flavors of the pastilles and the fudges? Like, I just never considered what those flavors might be. But I do like to think about Fred and George being like, okay, how do we mask the taste of this terrible ingredient that we put in here to make people throw up, in order to make it taste a little bit better?
And because it's a pastil with the puking, then I guess it would be fresh peppermint puking pastil.
Yeah. Well, it's also, like, those are used for, like, soothing your throat, right? So,
Yeah.
like, after you've been projectile vomiting out of your throat, you're like, yeah. And then a nice pastille to, you know, soothe the throat.
And freshen
exactly.
up your breath a bit, and yeah.
Don't get them mixed
Yeah.
up. That will be not great.
Yeah, no, the worst would be, like, combining them, and then suddenly you're, like, bleeding and puking
Oh.
and feverish, and you're like, oh dear.
That sounds awful.
But would the antidote to a puking pastil work if you had the stomach flu?
Huh. I mean, I'm
Um,
guessing that they based it off of existing potions that are used to cure stomach flu in the wizarding world or whatever. So
Yeah,
I would say probably it does.
right? Because they try to use the nosebleed nougat, the other side of it, for, is it Katie having a nosebleed? Angelina?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
But they have
Feed her the wrong one. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
One of them.
Yeah.
Oops.
Oh, yeah. When they're like, we may have accidentally given her a blood blister pie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oops.
Oopsie.
Oopsie.
But, we go from the skiving snack boxes, to, the daydream magic. And I love that Hermione just, like, says straight up that the twins are, like, doing impressive magic. And Fred appreciates the compliments so much that he'll give her free merchandise.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I really like the mutual respect between them. Like, considering how much they, like, butt heads, especially, like, early on. Like, the fact that they're, like, game recognizes game. I really like it. Or, of course, is it love? Because per our Hermione shipping episode, I could totally get behind Fred Hermione.
Yeah, I mean, I can also see the argument for that. I mean, I don't actually agree with it, but I do see the argument for Fred Hermione. But yeah, I do really like that Hermione, like, she appreciates good magic even when it's, like, not something that she would have used her magic for. Like, she appreciates intelligence, and yeah.
I wonder how much of it is the fact that she respects the fact that they're creating new magic because it's not something she can do. Like, Hermione is excellent at doing magic that is already, like, established. She's great at, like, learning out of the book, but she doesn't have the ingenuity, the originality, the, like, whatever it is to create new magic on her own. So she's just like, this is, like, I could not conceive of doing what you guys are doing. It's very impressive.
On the flip side, though, we don't see her have that attitude with the Half-Blood Prince. I see her being extremely jealous of the Half-Blood Prince and also disapproving of the fact that he's, like, not following the rules or not, like, doing things the way that have worked for her, etc., etc. So I'm not sure if I buy that or not.
But with the Half-Blood Prince, it's because she's salty about getting beat in class. Like,
sure.
I feel like if sort of Harry had just, like, you know, shown her the textbook and been like, here are some cool spells that I found that someone came up with, I think she would be much more respectful of it than the fact that it's being used to beat her in class.
Right. I can see that. I mean, I think that that's a very typical thing where, like, I think that's a very human thing, that people feel more competitive towards others when, like, they're in direct competition versus if someone isn't in direct competition with you, you can be more likely to, like, actually just, like, respect what they're doing. So, like, Fred and George are not competing with Hermione because Hermione never wanted to open up a joke shop. But if Hermione had wanted to open up a joke shop, she would have hated that they were so much better at it than her, you know?
Yes.
I think it would have been great if they worked together, because the twins have the, you know, the creativity, the ingenuity, and Hermione has, you know, the knowledge and the diligence. She could be their, like, quality control department, you know? Because she would design the proper tests for everything to make sure everything's safe, to make sure that everything's working at peak efficiency. Even if she doesn't, you know, create the spells or the products themselves, she could probably definitely improve them. Probably definitely isn't the best way to put it, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
She absolutely could. She never would.
She wouldn't, yeah.
I don't know that the twins would need that, though. Like, I feel like the twins are actually very good at, you know, like, doing the grind and putting in the work when it's something they're into.
I agree. And I think that, like, you know, she would never be willing to do the same things that they do. Like, you know, she's really upset about the fact, and I think she's perfectly right in being upset about the fact that the twins are testing their products on, like, random, you know, first years who don't even know what they've signed up for. And I think that Hermione would not have been willing to do the sorts of things that they would have done that were necessary for them to make sure that the products were actually safe. Like, I don't know. I just, like, don't feel like she would have wanted to be involved.
Oh, I don't think she would have wanted to, but I think it would be kind of a fun alternate universe sort of thing.
Yeah, no, I could see it like a fan fiction version of it.
Yeah. And, you know, there's probably other ways to test products other than feeding them to children. And if anybody could come up with, you know, tests that are a little bit less risky, I feel like Hermione could have had a good shot at that.
Yeah,
But
I
it
think
wasn't that risky
I-
because they already tested it.
Well,
Yeah, they
They
tested
just-
it on themselves first. It's fine.
course.
It's just quality
Fine.
control.
they tested on themselves, who both have the same genetic makeup.
And I mean, it's
therefore-
lucky that they didn't,
And Lee
didn't
Jordan.
kill themselves in the process.
Yes.
Yeah.
But they also
I don't-
tested it lots of it on Lee Jordan.
Progress demands risk.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if a couple of your friends might die along the way, this is just the sacrifice
Yes.
they're willing to make.
Yeah, really, maybe it's the twins who've internalized Dumbledore's lessons the best.
It's all for the greater good, right?
It is. I mean, having the Skyvik snack boxes in the world is a greater good, so yes, I completely agree. But further proof that Jo is a lot like Hermione. Jo also really, really likes the daydream charms. She said in an interview, from the joke shop, well, my favorite has to be the daydream charm, where you sort of plug yourself into this daydream and you escape from your school lesson, which I could do without a magical product quite easily, and I am sure many of you could. It appeared to be that they boxed the fantasy and you could do it to a boring class. I liked that one the best. And, yeah, like, I think that is a really, really cool product.
Yeah. The thing is, I mean, yes, like, that does make her sort of like Hermione, but to me, it seems like for different reasons. Like, Hermione would never use one of the daydream charms. Like, I don't see her as being much of a daydreamer, but it was very impressed by the magic of it. Whereas I think that
Yes.
Jo, who, is clearly a very imaginative person, would probably enjoy the, like, imagination daydream part of it. So I actually see that as a way in which they're pretty different, but both like it for the same for different reasons.
Fair enough, yes.
Yes.
I'm curious, like, if y'all could have one product from the Weasley Whizard Wheezes, like, what would it be?
I think, well, I mean,
I don't want
probably a pygmy puff.
I
let's be
know.
real.
Yeah,
But-
I was gonna say a pygmy puff.
Other than that, I mean, I know, okay, I probably wouldn't actually use this because I have too much of a, like, I think morally I'd never use this. But as someone who enjoys, like, who can be very nosy or just, like, enjoys having gossip, I think I would love the extendable ears as a concept.
Yes.
But at the same time...
Oh, I definitely want the extendable ears.
Yeah, at the same time, I think I would just, like, feel I do respect people's privacy, so I think I would feel uncomfortable with it. I don't know. I would...
Yeah, me too. I would never, ever use extendable ears. I respect privacy way too much. Yeah, same. Hard same. Yeah.
I think
we believe you, Urban.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think that I would, to be honest, I would use the extendable ears mainly with, like, strangers. Like, I think with people I knew, I would respect their privacy, but I think with strangers, like, if there was, like, a half-overheard conversation from, like, down the subway or something, I would, like, sneak the extendable ear down there to, like, get all of the juicy gossip and, like, like, I don't know, with people who I didn't know that well, or, like, people in a restaurant, like, if I can, like, half hear a conversation, like, a couple tables over, I would, like, sneak down the extendable ears. So I think I would use the extendable ears, just, like, not to, like, eavesdrop on, like, my friends or family or whatever, because I'd feel icky about that. But with strangers, I just, like, I want the story. I don't care about them. Like, I just want the story.
Yeah. Especially on the subway, because, like, I'm sure you've encountered this where, like, you're on the subway platform and suddenly two people are having a shouting match and New Yorkers are like meerkats. Everyone immediately, like, looks up from their photo book. They're like, oh, what's happening? Like, oh no, she didn't. Oh, what'd he say?
Yep.
Like, we like a good show.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, extendable ears would come in very handy.
Yeah.
Cause there's always the, like, dueling impulses of, like, well, you want to get closer so you can hear, but, like, you don't want to make it look like you're, going towards the show.
Exactly. And sometimes,
So you're like,
especially in New York, the people who are shouting at each other are, like, insane. So you're like, I don't actually want to get near
Yes.
these people because who knows what's going to happen, but...
Exactly. What about you guys? Which Weasley product do you want?
I think it's a
wouldn't mind
very, very difficult question.
I wouldn't mind the daydream charm as well, actually. That sounds really nice. And the pygmy
It does
puff.
sound nice, yeah.
I want a pygmy puff.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely the pygmy puff. And the daydream would be fun to try. Yeah, absolutely. But I honestly don't know.
I was just thinking that, it'd be nice to have the nosebleed nougat to get out of work, and then I realized, well, I'm an adult now, I can probably just say and leave. I probably don't need to do that. I just realized that while I was thinking, maybe I would get it. I don't really need
Maybe
to.
I would actually want some of the fireworks.
Ah, those would be really
yes.
fun.
Yeah.
The indoor fireworks, that would be amazing.
Yeah, exactly.
It'd be great for a birthday party.
Exactly.
Oh my god, it would. Think of the parties I could throw. Oh. Yeah, okay, I do want those.
Yeah, right. That would just add a whole nother layer of celebration.
What about some exploding snap? Just to freak people out on the train.
Ooh, or the portable swamp. I really, really love the portable swamp as well. But just as a...
Are they selling it though?
Yes, they are.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, so it's not mentioned in this chapter, but
No.
I think they did say in Order of the Phoenix they'd be selling it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, honestly, God, they have so much good merchandise.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be like, God, if I ever went to Weasley Whizard Wheezes, I would spend so much money. But I have, in fact, gone to Weasley Whizard Wheezes in the theme parks, and I did, in fact, spend so much money.
What did you buy?
I got my pygmy puff as well.
Me too.
Yes, I got a pygmy puff.
Me too.
Yes, I named my pygmy puff Arnold III.
Oh.
Perfect.
I named mine Montgomery.
Mine is called Philupi.
That is a perfect pygmy puff name.
Thank you.
Am I the only person in this group today that doesn't have a pygmy puff?
Apparently.
Yes.
Missing out.
I'm feeling bereft.
Yes.
It's a sign to go get yourself a pygmy puff.
Well, it is my birthday next month, so maybe this
there
is
you are.
finally the time for me to.
And in
acquire.
Orlando,
I
you
think
can
it
have
is.
them name it. A whole big ceremony.
Really? Probably won't
Yeah,
go
oh,
as
it's
far
a
as
whole to-do.
Orlando for it, but
That's fair.
Yeah. But also, I got the extendable ears, and they actually
Yes.
Oh,
Like-
brilliant.
work. Which, I was amazed by.
They're not like the most subtle.
admittedly-
They're not the most.
No, they're not magical. You do have to, leave the ears somewhere, and there's, a giant ears, but they do work. Which
they
is very
do
impressive.
work. Yeah.
I actually have a pair. I never tried them. They're
how
just
do
on
they
display.
work exactly?
It's like they attach to headphones. There's like a little the wire brings the sound from the ear through to your headphones, so you can hear people talking.
Ah,
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah. So, if you do need to eavesdrop on people, get yourself an extendable ear.
And no one will notice the giant ear floating around the room.
No, completely unobtrusive. Listeners, we also want to hear from you. Tell us which Weasley Whizard Wheezes product you want most, because apparently this is quite a difficult question.
And how much you're willing to pay for it?
And look for our line of 3 broomsticks Weasley Whizard Wheezes merch coming soon.
But the only correct answer is really one of each, please. But that's just very
Yes.
expensive. But I'm willing to do it.
But you can save on shipping then, so it makes a lot of sense.
Exactly.
So going through their other products, they mentioned that they make muggle magic tricks for nutters like Dad. And this is just the most wholesome thing I can think of.
It's so sweet.
It reminds me about those stalls at markets where you go and there would be those little wooden boxes and you would open them and there's this tiny mechanism inside and this little pretend snake comes out. So and you go, ooh, magic. So it's the same kind of level of usefulness
Yeah.
around magic
Yeah.
tricks for muggles that the twins are probably getting to sell in their shop.
Well, the
Yeah.
novelty
I
of
think-
it is just oh wow, they are so obsessed with magic that they just they want to be able to do it so much that they have to that they put in the effort to figure out all of these little tricks to try to convince people they can do it. I can imagine you just being "Aw, that's so cute." They want to be us so badly.
Imagine some poor wizard child is buying this set of muggle playing cards and then just keeps jabbing them with his wand and is no, they're not doing anything. They're not doing anything.
Yeah, I just think it's a good reminder of how family-oriented the twins are. 'Cause, they're loud and brash and, sarcastic about it, but I feel like they sort of, more than a lot of their siblings, like, really, like, are ride or die for their family and the family unit and, like, very much care about, making sure everyone in the family is together and loved and all that.
Totally. They're very loyal to their family and, like, they use their money to, like, get really nice gifts for their mom and, like, even though she never supported their dream, like, they are, using the fact that their dream is successful to, like, take care of their mom and do nice things for her. Like, I always find that really sweet, and they're thinking about what their dad would like of their products, and, yeah.
Yeah, very wholesome. So the, another cool line of products they have is their shield apparel, where, you just put on a hat or gloves or cloaks or whatever, and they have a shield charm on it. And so the twins say, you wouldn't believe how many people, even people who work at the ministry, can't do a decent shield charm. Of course, they didn't have you teaching them, Harry. And, like, honestly, considering it's been 2 generations of defense professors who've lasted a year, like, I believe it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I hadn't
might
thought
point
of
in the
that,
direction
but
of it being difficult magic.
I viewed it as much more of a commentary on the fact that, like, Voldemort's whole anti-defense jinx, like, really has done a number on British wizarding society.
Yeah,
That's fair.
I think that is really fair that, like, there hasn't been any sort of... I mean, part of it is also that Hogwarts doesn't seem to have, like, a proper, like, curriculum where each year builds on the next that is, like, at all standardized. But that because of that, since there's always a new teacher, whatever the new teacher wants to do, they kind of just do, so they're not necessarily going to focus on things like shield charms.
Yeah. And considering they've had, like, about 40 different teachers at this point in 40 years, like... Yeah, it's not the best candidates anymore.
Yeah,
No,
they don't
exactly.
get to, like, build on what they did the previous year, because all the previous years are different.
Yeah. I'll also point out that this is the book where, like, we actually find out about the jinx in, like, Lord Voldemort's request and everything. So I feel like this is sort of one of those things where Joe is, like, subtly reminding us and doing a bit of world building.
Mhm.
Like, like, y'all see what's going on here?
That's a very good point.
Yeah. Because, just, again, Half-Blood Prince is so tightly written. Like, I believe every sentence is there for a reason.
Yeah, it's also very much the book where her years of plotting is really coming together. She's, like, gathering every piece of small idea she had and placing it in this book and then building on to the finale. It's really a brilliant book.
But also for the shield charms, one of the twins' specialties that I've noticed seems to be extending, like, different spells to, like, clothing and apparel. Rather than, like, needing a person to cast them. So, like, think, like, the headless hats, where Hermione's like, well, wait, like, how do you just do that in a hat? And, like, I imagine this is probably, like, so helpful, and also, I imagine it's probably really difficult magic. Like, sort of, taking a spell and then putting it, like, in an object. So, like, I can see why Hermione's impressed.
Like, do we even have any examples of anything that the twins didn't create that does something like that?
Invisibility cloaks, I'd say.
Well, no, because the invisibility... I mean, like, with the headless hat, you put the hat on your head, but the hat isn't covering your whole face, and yet it's making all of you... all of your head invisible, but the invisibility cloak you're putting all over you, and it makes you all invisible.
And that's basically a disillusionment charm that's prolonged into a piece of clothing.
But also, the invisibility cloak isn't really magic, it's Demiguy's hair.
Yeah, depending, because they have a discussion on it, where they say it's either a Demiguy's hair or a disillusionment charm.
Right.
Placed...
Right,
a piece of clothing.
Right.
So it depends on how they do it. We don't know that.
Yeah. But yeah, otherwise, I can't really think of an instance like that.
Yeah, me neither. Which is pretty impressive.
And, like, And, like, think how useful it could be for, like, you know, squibs or just people who aren't good at magic. Like, can you imagine having, like, you know, gloves with cleaning charms on them?
Oh.
Like, where you just, like, take your glove and you, like, put it on a surface and it does a Scourgify? Like, Lord, what I would pay for
That sounds amazing, actually.
Yeah.
And they could then, you know, if they had the whole line of different items of clothing that are imbued with certain spells, they could even have a separate shop.
Yeah. Or they could, like, partner with Madame Malkin,
Yeah.
like, do a little joint venture.
Yeah, or you can probably even earn a lot of money if you had some kind of a service where, you know, a person comes into the shop and says, I want these properties, these spells in my cloak. And you get this, like, cool, custom-made magical items of clothing.
I mean, I imagine that would be incredibly complex, because I don't think it's, like,
And
a standard
expensive.
thing to, like... Yeah, well, I'm saying I don't think it's a standard, like, process of, like, putting a spell in an object. I imagine that, like, each spell would be, like, a very different task. So, like, I don't know
Could
that
be,
you
yeah.
even could do a, like, you know, custom-to-order thing. Like, you would sort of have to be commissioning an entirely new product at that point. So yes, like, it would cost a fortune.
I can imagine Lucius would go for something like that, though.
Yes.
And he has the cash to pay for it.
What spell would Lucius want in his cloak?
Ooh.
A muggle repelling charm.
Yes! Oh my god! Wait, I want this fanfic. I want this fanfic where Lucius shows up and he's like, could you please put, you know, Muggletum Repellio in a cloak? And George is like, go F yourself.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
We
so
don't
great.
make bigot clothes, sorry.
Yeah, no, honestly, like, I would so read a series of fanfics just about, like, the Weasley twins' business ventures. Like, you know, one chapter about, like, Madame Malkin being like, your headless hats are not fabulous enough. Let me talk to my milliner.
Yep.
Yeah. And you know whom it could be from the perspective of? Verity, the Weasley Whizard Wheezes employee.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So she's, she gets, like, a one-time mention in, like, a passing sentence. But the number of times she's been the response to the question of, if you could be a Harry Potter character for a day. Like,
Really?
everyone just wants to be Verity and hang out with the twins in their shop
That's
all
so
day.
funny. I've never heard that before, but it makes sense now that you say it.
I've heard it a lot. Like, for the fact that Verity is mentioned once, I've heard her a lot.
Well, you get to have a cool name and wear magenta robes and work in the cool shop. There's not a lot of peril involved, so you're safe, but you're still in the wizarding
yeah,
world. That sounds great to me.
There's some amount of peril,
mean,
I feel like.
Relatively speaking.
Yeah. I'm curious, did you guys ever think, like, Verity would be anything in the story, or was it always just, like, a, you know, throwaway line?
I was
Just a
hoping
throwaway line to me.
I was hoping she would come back for something because Verity is one of my favorite names, but purely because of that, not for any other reason.
Fair enough.
I thought she might be, like, become a romantic interest of the twins.
Yeah, I thought that
Yeah,
too.
but I didn't think much about it, but I was like, oh, I wonder if one of them is going to end up with Verity.
Mm-hmm. We've been talking a lot about the merchandise. And so the essay I wrote, that I want to just quickly run down some highlights, is the fact that all of the merchandise we see in Weasley Whizard Wheezes directly parallels merchandise we've seen at Borgin and Burke's. And I feel like Joe is really sort of making, like, a very obvious, like, contrast and parallel here, where it's like, you have the, like, dark, depressing, dangerous stuff, and then you have the, like, complete and total antidote to it. There's 9 things that are listed here.
Not 7?
I know. So it's 7 objects that Harry sees at Borgin and Burke's in Chamber of Secrets, but 6 that Draco sees in Half-Blood Prince. But there's a lot of overlap, so between them, it's 9.
Okay.
I know, I was perplexed too.
Yeah.
They have the Hand of Glory, and I think that corresponds to the decoy detonators, where the Hand of Glory is used to escape everyone's attention by hiding yourself in darkness, whereas the decoy detonators are used to escape everyone's attention by creating a distraction over there. And they're opposites because the Hand of Glory is for people to avoid noticing it, whereas the latter, very much the point is for people to notice it and not you. Then in Borgin and Burke's, there's a blood-stained pack of cards, whereas here we have Muggle card tricks.
Mm-hmm.
Nice, wholesome, fun.
Not yet bloodstained.
God!
Exactly. Yeah, pending how people use them. In Borgin and Burke's, there's a staring glass eye, and I think that corresponds to the Peruvian instant darkness powder, because the eye is for seeing things, presumably, and the darkness powder makes it so no one can see.
Okay.
But there's also, it's an eye is technically for seeing things, but it's made out of glass, so it can't actually see anything. So it kind of, it looks like it's for seeing things, but isn't actually.
I mean, we don't know what kind of magical properties the glass eye has.
That's true.
Like, I always assumed it would be something like Mad-Eye Moody's eye, but, like, sinister. Then in Borgin and Burke's, they have evil-looking masks. And I'm gonna say this corresponds to the love potions at Weasley Whizard Wheezes, because, both are used to, deceive people, and inspire feelings that aren't there. The masks, being evil-looking, inspire feelings of fear, in someone, whereas love potions, inspire feelings of love, but both are really horrible and gross.
Ew, yeah. Honestly, in this case, I'd say maybe the masks are better than the love potion.
They are. Yeah.
Although we don't know
what
what
the
the masks
spin-off
do.
where Draco puts on one of the masks and then it's just a version of the mask with Jim Carrey.
I thought you were being like, Draco puts on the masks and suddenly everyone isn't madly in love with him. Then in Borgin and Burke's, they have, a shelf full of skulls. Whereas in Weasley Whizard Wheezes, they have edible dark marks.
And
okay,
they're taking something scary there and making it fun. Like, the dark mark is scary, and they're like, but we're taking away its power by making it something that you can eat and whatever,
Yeah, like, I honestly think that, like, from the Death Eaters and Voldemort's perspective, the edible dark marks are probably the most dangerous thing the Weasley twins sell.
Yeah.
Because, like, they've invested literal decades into this brand.
Right!
Into making sure everyone is terrified of the dark mark. Like, what Arthur says in Goblet of Fire, like, coming home and seeing the dark mark, you can't imagine it was everyone's worst fear, the very worst. And then here it's an edible candy.
Exactly. They should have trademarked it.
Be like, yeah, hey, Voldemort, yeah, I know you're a Dark Lord, but we have intellectual property law on our side, so come at us, bro.
Exactly.
Do you think older people would find that kind of thing inappropriate? I was just thinking,
absolutely,
like from the
yes,
like the Muggle equivalent being, I don't know, a chocolate swastikas or something.
Oh, absolutely. Like, I think a lot of people, especially people who probably experienced the Dark Mark, find it wildly inappropriate.
Yeah, I would agree. And yet there is something, they do seem to be regaining some sort of power by making it something that, is fun or funny or, I don't know.
I mean, it's the same concept as with the Boggarts, isn't it? You're just making something you fear funny
exactly.
less kind of disarming it.
But I
exactly.
can totally, I think that it's probably the most controversial thing they sell, other than the love potions. Yeah, probably. Other than love potions.
Well, dark marks? I eat dark marks for breakfast. Or with my coffee.
Yeah. I do think it's a good thing that the dark marks are edible, and so, like, they disappear and you're not just, like, keeping a, like, mini dark mark in your home.
Right.
Because I imagine people would find that much more problematic. But here it's like, okay, just eat it and, like, let's have done with it.
And they say they'll make anyone sick. So also it's like, I mean, I don't know what that means, if it's just like you feel sick to your stomach or something, or what. Yeah. So it's also, like, showing that this is not something that's great. But, yeah.
Yeah. I imagine it's meant for kids to be like, I dare you to eat a dark mark,
Exactly.
like type thing.
But you know where they used to be, you used to be able to buy like chocolate cigarettes back in the
Right.
day. Maybe it's like that.
Yeah. Okay, right. So, back to the list. This one is a wee bit of a stretch. But in Borgin and Burke's, they have rusty spiked instruments hanging from the ceiling. And I think that those correspond to the spell check quills. Because... Hear me out. So both are instruments, right, that you use, but both don't work as well as they should, because the Borgin and Burke ones are rusty, so the Borgin and Burke ones don't work as well as they should because they're rusty, whereas the Weasley Whizard Wheezes quills work better than they should because they correct your spelling in addition to being used for writing. So that's the opposition.
Except they don't work for very long because then, Runal Waslib has, some bad results with his dung bogs or whatever.
Yeah. Well, because eventually the Weasley Wizard Wheezes quills will also become rusty, so to speak.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Also, I needed a ninth,
Okay.
so.
Well, it works. It does work.
Thank you. So there's the Vanishing Cabinet at Borgin and Burke's. And if we're on the topic of vanishing, I'm gonna say it's the guaranteed 10-second pimple vanisher.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay. We also have headless heads, but...
We also have that. There's, in Borgin and Burke's, there's a long coil of hangman's rope, whereas in Weasley Whizard Wheezes, they have a reusable hangman game.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Very true.
Yeah. So again, taking something like gross and evil and turning into something fun you can laugh at.
Mm-hmm.
And then, this one I'm actually quite proud of. I think the cursed opal necklace corresponds to the shield hats. Because both are things that you wear for a special effect. But while the necklace will place a curse on the wearer, the shield hat will protect the wearer from curses. So there's the opposition.
Interesting.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And what about the pygmy puffs?
Yeah. So that's all the stuff we have at Borgin.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was wondering if
there's
there might
a lot
be
more
a
Weasley Wizard
hidden,
Wheezes merch.
Yeah.
There's a lot more Weasley Wizard Wheezes merch than there is at Borgin and Burke's.
I see.
Yeah. But I did think this is one of the things where Jo was, like, listing, Weasley Wizard Wheezes merch, and I think part of the thing she was doing, it was sort of, like, subconsciously creating these parallels to, like, really sort of show us its place in society, like, in opposition to Borgin and Burke's.
Yeah, and makes sense with the ring theory of when Harry goes to Borgin Burke's in the second book. And then we have both Weasley Wizard Wheezes and Borgin Burke's in the sixth.
Mm.
Yeah. So, while we're at Weasley Wizard Wheezes, there is a fantastic moment where Ginny tells off the twins and Ron for slut-shaming her, and I was reading this and I was like, yes! You go, girl! Because it is one of Ron's least admirable traits among so many that are objectionable. But just, yeah. Like, the way Ginny tells him off, she's like... Because she's arguing with the twins, she's like... They're like, you're going through boys a bit fast. She's like, I will have you know. And then Ron shows up and she's like, and I will thank you not to carry tales about me to the twins. And just... Yeah, like, I have no notes. I just think Ginny is awesome here.
Yeah,
But
I agree.
Book Ginny is always awesome.
And it's a good book for her.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I will also say, like, historical context. This book came out in 2005, where the whole slut-shaming thing was, maybe on its way out, but, like, nowhere near gone from society.
Yeah.
So this was actually, like, somewhat unusual to read, where a teenage girl is just brazenly being like, yeah, I date guys. What of it? Like, it was fairly unusual, which made it all the more badass when I first read it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think people forget that those books are quite progressive for their time, even if they don't come across
Oh,
as
yeah.
progressive now,
Yeah.
many years later.
Yeah. Well, and, like, we even saw that in fandom, where I feel like for, like, maybe the first 5, 6, 7 years after the book came out, sort of fandom kept being like, oh, like, Ginny's this whore, oh, Ginny sleeps around. And then, after a while, they were like, okay, no, we're not gonna do that anymore, we're gonna put that trope to bed.
Yeah.
Which was a an immense relief.
Wow, I'm very glad that I missed that whole that whole saga and fandom.
Yeah. Like, the fandom's usually pretty great, but, like, no one bats 1,000.
Yeah. It does make me wonder, like, with Ron, there's a lot of him being jealous of Ginny and the fact that she, does better in her romantic life than he does. And I wonder with the twins, like, we don't know much about their romantic life and whether it's, like what their motivation is here. Like, is it just, we want to tease her? Is it that, are they also like, wow, she has had more boyfriends than we've ever had girlfriends? Or are they being protective? Like, I'm kind of more, I'm curious what their motivation is.
Yeah, when I read it, I saw it as Ron being jealous the way he is jealous, because he's jealous of all his siblings. Ginny is a girl, she has it more easy, she's the center of attention for his mom, and the twins are just the twins. They get attention very easily. And when I look at them in this perspective, I think more they're trying to be big brotherly, overprotective. Are we gonna mess this guy up if he doesn't treat you right? And are you sure you know what you're doing, little sis? Should we take care of you? Sort of thing. And not a jealousy thing, because when we do get to see them talk about girls, it seems that it comes across very easily for them. They're very charming, they're very
I get that
happy-go-lucky about everything.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I definitely think for the twins, it's a protective thing. Because there's also, like, an age gap, right? Like, Ron is a year older than her, so, like, yes, she's his baby sister, but, like, they're pretty much peers. Which contributes to his jealousy, where she is so much more experienced than he is. With the twins, they're more than 3 years older than her. It's like 3 years and 4 months or something. So I think for them, it's very much their baby sister who is suddenly, like, like a walking, talking, like, person with sexual desires, and they're like, no, we don't like that at all. Because they have never indicated they've struggled romantically, I think it's very much a protective thing for them.
It's interesting, because they don't come across as protective so much as judgy, but I think that what you said about, like, them, like, that they maybe just, like, don't want to see their sister that way. They're just like, I don't want to see her as someone who, like, wants to date lots of different guys, or or like even dates guys at all, or like, but it is not just like, oh, she's dating someone. It's like, oh, she's moving through guys quickly. Like, she's, and like, she has standards, and she, like, dumps this guy, and then she immediately finds a new guy. Like, I think that there's a lot of judgment in there that to me doesn't seem so much like protectiveness, but I do think that there is some of that, like, oh, this is just not how I want to see my little sister. Like, all of a sudden she went from being a child to being a teenager, and I don't like that.
Yeah, well, part of it, right, like, the moving through the guys thing, I think it's because, in their mind, if their baby sister is dating, they want her to, like, hold hands with a boy for, like, 9 months, and then maybe have, like, a chaste kiss at the end of that. And the fact that she is moving through guys quickly is really contributing to the, like, oh no, she's not, like, just, going out the way, like, 5th graders go out. It's, like, it's a thing. Yeah,
but moving through guys quickly, it's at this point 2 guys, right?
That's not even that many guys.
It really isn't.
And they have the moving through guys too quickly in quotation marks from Ron. So the judgment part of it is directly from Ron, and she corrects them, and it seems like they're backing off and still have that protective, okay, we just want to know that you're all right and that you should take care of yourself. And are these guys all right? Whereas Ron is like, you little slut, out of jealousy.
Let us show you our section of magical contraception in
exactly.
the corner here.
Are you
just
are
behind
you being
the
safe?
Daydream charms?
I'll also point out that Ron seems to have internalized a lot of sort of, conservative standards for women from Molly, I'm guessing. more than his brothers have, because I'm thinking specifically in Goblet of Fire, where, you know, the article about Hermione comes out and Ron is like, she's made you out to be a scarlet woman. That's what my mother calls them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because Mrs. Weasley is very much a boomer, and I imagine has some...
Yes.
And that.
But think about it for
I imagine has some conservative ideas about how, you know, good girls should behave around boys. And I imagine that Ron, especially, like, you know, hanging out with his mom when all his brothers have gone off to school, you know, maybe watching the daytime soaps or whatever, if they had television, which they don't. I think that Ron has probably internalized a bit more of that, like, you know, like, girls should, you know, be chaste and all that than his brothers have.
But that also makes a lot of sense, both, as you say, that he's been hanging around since the twins always had each other when their big brothers went off, and then they still had Ron. And then he was left with no brothers because the twins left at the same time. So he was there with his little sister, and she must have gotten a lot more attention. We kind of know that he craved his mother's attention. So to get that attention, he would just sort of copy her and repeat what she said. That would give him praise. So it makes sense that this happened.
It's interesting, though, because we don't see Mrs. Weasley ever talk to her about Ginny in that way.
No.
So...
But we see her react to Hermione after the articles from Rita Skeeter.
So I do wonder, though, like, if she acts the same way with her own daughter, or if it's more of like other
but does
women.
She know?
Like, I mean, we don't know. We have no proof either way. It seems like the kind of family where there are enough people that the gossip gets around, but I don't know. We have no
proof. The gossip comes from Ron to the twins. I don't think gossip gets around about Ginny. I think Ron is the gossip about Ginny.
But, like, Ron could have gossiped to his mom. We don't know if he did or not.
I don't think he would. It seems like there's a hierarchy between the siblings. They by all means avoid going to mom, because then things have escalated.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, and maybe is a good sign that Ron was not super vindictive and wasn't just like, well, I'm gonna go tattle on Ginny so that Molly comes down on her and is terrible to her. So I think that's probably a good sign of Ron not just totally betraying her.
Yeah.
Wow, that bar is underground.
Well, some siblings do that kind of stuff. But
I'm an only child, I wouldn't know.
Irvin's also an only child, so
yeah.
I would say Ron is too old to really, that he should really know better, and he does. But I'd say younger siblings definitely would be like, she's doing this thing you don't approve of, you know.
And she's doing all these boys.
Yeah, she's doing these boys.
She's doing all these people you wouldn't approve of.
I think, I mean, when you're younger, yes, you go tattle to your parents, but when you get older, I remember when my sister got older, she would tell me about what she was doing, and not necessarily boys, that's not what I'm saying, but in general, things that my parents were not supposed to know of, staying out from curfew and sneaking out the window and stuff like that. And I wouldn't go tell my parents. I was my sister's keeper, and even though I would disapprove, and we had other siblings as well, but okay, that's a whole different story. But there was just her and I in the house. I wouldn't, if there had been other people, I would tell them about it, and that would be our siblings, but I would never tell our parents, because I was my sister's keeper when it came to our parents.
Right. Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think it's funny that Ron might feel jealous of Ginny's dating success, because what is he doing? I mean, he literally doesn't talk to anybody other than Harry and Hermione. I mean, where is that dating success for him is going to come from when he doesn't really...
Well, he wants to be with Hermione.
Hang out with other people.
He wants to be with Hermione, and he's not doing anything about it because he's insecure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I mean, he does ask out Fleur Delacour, and then she says no to him, and then decides to marry his older brother. So I could see how that could make you a little insecure.
The one thing I like about the Goblet of Fire, the film, is when he says, I love it when they walk. I just love that. But then you could argue he should have been doing the same thing, or he could have been doing the same thing that Ginny was doing, because Ginny was into Harry, but we know how that was for her at the start. So she gained some confidence through, dating other people. So Ron could have done that, but he didn't.
And I think that part of that is, I think he's very insecure and he didn't believe other people would want to date him. And also, maybe he was right. I mean, Ginny, we get the sense, is just very popular and pretty and all of those things. And maybe he wouldn't have had as many options as her. Like, that's possible. I mean,
he's certainly not as pretty, probably.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So...
Not as outgoing.
Yeah, he's not as social. He's not... I don't think... I mean, yes, could he have done more about it? Definitely, but I think there are reasons why he felt insecure and felt like that was not going to be something he would have success with.
Yeah. So, while we're on the Ron beat, in this chapter shows us that Ron is entirely to blame for Draco getting Peruvian instant darkness powder. Were you guys familiar with this theory?
No.
Because it came out... Oh, it came out shortly after Half-Blood Prince, and it was quite prevalent. But basically, at the end of the book, Draco uses Peruvian instant darkness powder, during the Battle of the Tower, and Ron is like, how dare the twins sell Peruvian darkness powder to Draco? I'm gonna have a word with them about who they sell products to. It's all his fault, because in this chapter, we see him carrying Weasley Whizard Wheezes merch as they follow Draco, and then dropping all the merchandise in Nocturne Alley as they're trying to get, extendable ears out, and presumably leaving it there. And I can't see Draco walking into Weasley Whizard Wheezes to buy anything, but I can definitely see him picking up Peruvian instant darkness powder in Nocturne Alley and using it. So I'm going to say that it's entirely Ron's fault that Draco got Peruvian instant darkness powder, making him deflecting blame onto the twins a case of epically ironic hypocrisy.
Okay.
Do wizards just not believe in bags?
I don't think they do.
But he hadn't bought anything at this point. He just left the store with all of it in tow.
Okay,
yes.
Theoretically, that's a neat theory. In practice, though, I don't buy it. As in, Draco had already left Nocturne Alley by the time that the trio stays there a lot longer than Draco does. So, why do we think that...
Not a lot longer. They stay there 2 minutes.
Well, okay, but Draco had left. He was out of earshot, or they wouldn't have gone in. Or Hermione wouldn't have gone in. So, why would he have walked back and picked up the instant darkness powder?
He could have doubled back, or Borgin could have found it outside his shop and taken it. And then it could have found its way to Draco.
I mean, I just
find that a lot likelier than Draco going shopping at the Weasley
But we know
shop.
that they do mail order.
Even so?
Why?
Because he hates the Weasleys. He would not try to spend money on their products in their store.
You know how desperate he is in Half-Blood Prince? You really think that that's where he draws the line? I just...
Yes.
No. I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible that theory is correct. I just don't think it makes that much sense. And I think that there is a broader point that's being made in this book. With the love potions, Harry has pretty much the same response of why, why are these not considered dangerous? Why are these, God, the Weasleys are selling these to, Romilda Vane, who's gonna use them on me. It's, tools in the wrong hand. And I mean, love potions in general suck, but, something in the wrong hands can go from being something fun or protective to being a weapon. And I think that's the point that's trying to be made, is when you have bad actors being malicious, they can use things for malicious purposes.
I agree that that's the broader point being made. I just think from a logistics standpoint, and B, from a writing standpoint. I think the fact that, like, again, I think everything is here for a reason. So the fact that we hear about Ron dropping all this merchandise, and that it's specifically him trying to blame the twins, I think this was deliberately done.
If it had happened,
as a sort
like,
of Easter
if
egg.
it had been something where he had dropped it on the way to Borgin and Burke's, and then Draco goes back up that path, and we can imagine happens upon it, then I'd say 100% I agree. But I think it is just too convoluted to be like, well, then obviously he came back to Borgin and Burke's a few minutes later, and they didn't see him on the way, like, he just happened to double back, and, like, I don't know, it's just, to me, it doesn't, I don't buy it.
Fair enough. Lena, Em, where do you come down?
I think it's plausible.
Yeah. I was just actually rereading as we were speaking to see, and we are not specifically told which boxes he are carrying, but they left straight from that money spinning area of dark arts that the Weasley twins showed him and Harry, and where they had discussed the darkness powder, and it says directly that he dropped a few more of the boxes he was holding, which could be in reference to him dropping boxes back at the shop, but it could also just mean that he dropped boxes on his way. I think it's plausible. I think it makes sense that he was carrying these boxes and then dropping them as they were running.
Yeah, so he dropped some boxes in the shop when he gives them the middle finger, and then he drops more, I think, when he gets out the extendable years. I think it's just
yeah, absolutely.
I think,
but he could also have dropped some on the way, and he definitely dropped some out in front of the store. So Draco could pick it up. They're not noticing what Draco does as he leaves the store. At that point, they're discussing what is happening. So, I mean,
no, they would.
Joe would potentially be more explicit if it was specifically Ron's fault. If it was important that it was Ron's fault, I mean, then Joe would have been more explicit in stating exactly Ron dropping which boxes. But I think it's plausible that it is his fault, and I like the theory.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think it's, like, important that it's Ron's fault. Between Half-Blood Prince and Deathly Hallows, there was a line of inquiry in the fandom that said Ron is showing signs of being abusive, and this was trotted out for that a lot, where basically he blames other people for what he does himself.
That's a stretch.
So if that was where Joe was going with that, then I agree it would have been an explicit thing if it was, like, important to his character. I think it's just sort of like a neat little Easter egg. I don't think it matters overly much in the grand scheme of things, which is why I think, it can be true without being explicitly stated.
Right. I mean, I think that, like, even if it was him who dropped it or whatever, like, and I don't really agree with that, but even if it was, I think that we also know that the twins are perfectly happy to sell their products to anyone, and don't really think that much about what they're going to do with it. So I think even then, saying that it's Ron's fault is like, well, Draco could have gotten it from the twins anyway. Like, I think that, like, either way, the twins would have sold it to Draco.
He could have made a mail order, and they would never know.
They would never
had questioned it.
Exactly, they never would have questioned it. Like, I just don't think that it's like, even if he was the one who dropped it, I don't think it's meaningfully Ron's fault. And I think Ron's point about who they sell their products to is fair. Like, they are selling products to a bunch of under 17 people, underage people, that they should not be selling to people under 17. Maybe shouldn't be selling at all. So
why on earth not? Like, what of their products do you object to other than the love potions?
I think that, like, there might be some, like, I mean, I don't know all the legal things. Like, this is getting into a little bit too much nitty-gritty of, like, yes, they've tested these products on a bunch of first years, but have these gone through, like, actual, like, actual trials to make sure that people with different health conditions won't respond badly to all of these different, like, things that might make them sick and stuff like that. Like, I don't know, like, I think that there are potentially things that, could be skeptical, but I was mainly thinking about the love potions.
Yeah. Well, because, like, since Wizarding Society is based in the 17th century, they didn't have an FDA yet.
Right, exactly. So I'm like, would everyone want their kids to be buying something that might make them sick, and they don't know if their kid will respond well to that or not?
I don't think any parents really want their kids shopping in a prank shop.
Right.
So...
In a Muggle prank shop where it's just like whoopee cushions, like, you're not going to do anything bad with that. Whereas the stuff that they're selling is potentially more dangerous or potentially more,
But in today's day and age, where everyone is shopping from Timo and whatever, where we don't know what is in the material that we're buying, it could be, that's a big discussion here in Europe, or at least in Denmark, that we don't know what things are in our clothing and which toxins are in our the toys that we're buying, or the stink bombs that my brother keeps tossing around. There's just no control with it. So I think parents know it's a joke shop, and it's fine. There wouldn't be that I don't see a problem with it.
Yeah. Like, especially because the wizarding community is so small.
Yeah.
Like, if a kid, died from a nosebleed nougat, like, that would be the end of Fred and George's business, and, like, word would get around. Mm-hmm. So...
Well, also, we've established that safety is not a big concern in the wizarding world, so I think they're probably,
Yeah, I mean, also wizards are bouncy,
wizards don't care, so, yeah. I would say...
And for the whole...
If they existed in the current
run
world,
pointing...
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, and for the whole point of Ron being like, Fred and George cannot just sell to anyone, that's again just a case of Ron trying to make a stand, and I want to be important and have great opinions on everything, but I'm a little bit double-standarded here. And that's just what Ron does. And that's why it's a fun theory for him actually being the one who dropped the darkness powder, because that's so Ron. When he's at blame, he's quick to point fingers, and it's not I really enjoyed Ron as a character. Sorry. I really enjoy Ron as a character. So it's just, I think it's a fun theory of him dropping it, and him pointing out Fred and George shouldn't be selling is not him trying to be, protective of anyone, just him being a little bit double standard here.
Well, I mean, I think it makes sense. It was a very emotional moment where Dumbledore had just died and Bill had just been mauled by Greyback, and I think that, I think lots of people might just pick someone to blame in that situation because it's just too
definitely
horrible.
Also that.
Yes, true. Okay, well, at the 90-minute mark of part 2 of this
Have we made it out of the shop?
I think we get to Draco's titular detour.
I can't believe this. We're there.
So exciting.
Okay, so, yes, Draco detours to Borgin and Burke's, and we see Draco threatening Borgin, and I adore this scene. I think it's so good. Like, just, it's such great character development. Like, I think we've already discussed, like, the parallels, to Lucius, a little bit, but just, like, everything we see Draco say and do is, like, wonderful character development. So, let's get into it. When Draco starts threatening Borgin has a curious expression of mingled resentment and fear. And, like, it's interesting to think about Borgin's perspective, right? Because he doesn't like Lucius Malfoy to begin with. We sort of see that, in Chamber of Secrets. And, like, now Lucius Malfoy's snot-nosed teenager is showing up to push him around. And, like, he must be furious. But, like, he's also genuinely afraid of Voldemort. And so when Draco's like, it's a mission from the Dark Lord, like, Borgin has to put up with it. And yeah, it's interesting to think about him as a very unwilling accomplice here.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he, I'm sure it crossed his mind that Draco might be lying, but he probably doesn't want to take any chances. And then I think I'm just in a bit of a whimsical mood today. But when he starts to bring up Fenrir, I'm just thinking, oh, the boy's crying wolf.
That's funny.
And Borgin can't really ignore him because, it could be true. But he's also probably resentful because it could be false, and he just have to put up with this, as you said, snot-nosed teenager.
Oh, that's so funny.
The boy who cried wolf. I love it.
Genius. Absolutely genius. Well, so whether Borgin believes him or not at first, Draco proves it by showing him either his dark mark or his werewolf bite.
Or something else, we don't know.
Right.
Ev, we are past the mind in the gutter point, okay? We've talked about the daydream charms.
So we're back.
Move it along.
We're back.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know what fanfics you're reading.
Harry Potter smut for the win.
Always. I talk a lot about this in my Malfoy book about whether Draco is a werewolf or not. TLDR, he should be. But it's a really different read of what he does based on whether he's showing a dark mark or a werewolf bite. Because basically he shows whatever it is on his arm to Borgin, and then Borgin is very frightened, per the text. But then Draco is like, do it, or, you'll get a check-in from Fenrir Greyback. So, if he's showing a werewolf bite, this is actually, like, rhetorically sound, right? He's like, see the werewolf bite, ergo, there's a werewolf who will threaten you the way he bit me. Like, that makes sense. If it's a dark mark that Draco is showing, then the Fenrir threat is just completely unnecessary. Like, you show the dark mark, Borgin is already frightened, already doing what you're asking, and then Draco's like, and on top of that, there's a big bad werewolf on my side. It's unnecessary to get Borgin to do what he wants. And so this is really just sort of Draco feeling his oats, and being like, ah ha ha, I'm powerful, I have all these threats I can use. And, it's not a good look.
I have never heard this expression until today.
Which one?
Which one?
The one with the oats.
Oh, feeling his oats? Really?
Yeah.
It's a fairly common one. I guess it hasn't made its way to
Apparently not.
Ireland
I mean, we
yet.
do have the sewing of the oats.
I mean, I think it's the same concept.
Right.
You can feel your oats, and then you can sew your oats, and yeah, same idea.
Fascinating.
But I don't yes, it is kind of an overkill as a threat, but I think it's more just like he's letting him know like which scary dark person is going to be checking in on him. And most people are even more scared because like the thing is Borgin, like he deals with dark wizards all the time. Like that's just his job. So he's saying, like, no, this is not, like, one of the buddies who, like, comes and buys and sells from you. Like, this is, like, the guy that everyone is freaked out by and disgusted by. And, like, he is gonna be coming and checking in on you. So it's, like, a extra sort of kick at Borgin of, like, no, it's not gonna be my mom or, like, someone else. This is, like, someone extra creepy. So I think it is like an extra threat, but I feel like it's more like additional information.
Yeah, I agree with Sophia because we know of Fenrir being the unhinged one. He's not really a Death Eater. They don't know where they have him. He's unreliable. So having him as a threat is very much an incentive to do what you're told, and it's not just death that's coming, it's everything and anything but.
It's unnecessary.
Yeah, absolutely,
Because,
completely.
Like, if you're trying to get Borgin to do what you want him to do, he's already frightened. He's already frightened. He's already going to do whatever it is he said he will. He clearly is frightened enough to do it. Like, it's redundant.
So I'm thinking Draco doesn't need to bring Fenrir into this because, as Sophia has said, Borgin's already scared enough. But I wonder if Draco is just not very good at this yet because he's used to bullying classmates at Hogwarts and the other kids, and now he's kind of gone up in the world, or so he thinks he is, and he is trying his hand at bullying adults. So I think this is why it comes across as a little bit, too much and slightly over the top with Borgin. That's how I read it anyway.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree that this is Draco, like, bullying Borgin. That was my point, is that, like, the Fenrir thing, it's part of a power trip he's on.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, a little later in the conversation, Borgin makes, a suggestion that is in the realm of reasonable. He's like, do you want to take it with you? And Draco's like, no, you stupid little man.
Yeah, he doesn't need to do that.
He doesn't. Like, he insults Borgin because he can.
Right.
Because Borgin can't do anything about it. And he enjoys asserting dominance because he then leaves the shop looking very pleased with himself.
I would say Lucius would be not happy with him if he heard how this interaction went down.
No, because it's very different. Like, it's sort of, in direct contrast to the way we see Lucius talk to Borgin. Like, Lucius never does that. He speaks coldly, he speaks shortly, but he never insults Borgin, even though he obviously could have. Like, Borgin was obviously afraid enough of Lucius that he could have gotten away with it. So, like, this really shows that Draco is still childish. Like, he's still just sort of doing whatever he thinks he can get away with.
And also that he, I think, is aware of the fact that most people won't take him seriously because he's like a 16-year-old. So I think that he needs to work harder to, like, he knows that he needs to, like, really push to establish dominance, whereas his father can just, like, walk into a space and immediately get treated the way, have Borgin be all like, oh yes, Mr. Malfoy, So I think that he kind of knows that he doesn't have the natural power that Lucius has, and so needs to work harder for it.
He doesn't know how to come into the room and command that kind of, fear and respect.
No, because
and also he's 16, like, it's not, it's not like most 16-year-olds.
Yeah, and whenever he's bullying at Hogwarts, he has his goonies behind him, and those are the ones that demands respect when he enters a room. It's not him on his own.
I'm sure he probably doesn't think of it that way. He probably thinks it's all him.
Yeah, exactly.
He's the best.
Yeah, well,
and
I think
he loves
thinks
insulting
that, like,
people. That is his, like, go-to way of gaining power, is insults.
Mm.
Yeah.
I did sort of register, I'm not sure if you guys agree, but there's a certain kind of a nervous, mildly hysterical energy behind this interaction with Borgin that I thought. So Draco came across as a tiny bit sort of unhinged to me. And I thought him and Harry are doing kind of a similar thing in parallel. So when Harry comes into the Madame Malkin's earlier, he is kind of itching for a fight with Narcissa, more so than you would expect. He's drawing his wand at Draco in a clothing shop, which I think is too much even for Harry. And I was thinking they're probably a little bit, their nerves are probably a little bit more raw than normal. I think because they both recently have lost a father figure. So in case of Draco, Lucius isn't dead, obviously, but he's gone for now. And in case of Harry, he's lost Sirius at the end of previous book. So they're almost kind of putting on this extra tough guy act because they don't know what else to do. So they kind of deserve each other in this case.
I can kind of see that. I think that I do think that Harry reacts very strongly in the scene with Narcissa, in part because of what had happened with Sirius at the end of the last book. I think that that's definitely, he has this like anger that he needs to like get out. What are some of the ways that you think that Draco acts kind of unhinged in this scene, or like
just the way he's talking to Borgin? I guess what I was saying earlier about how he seems to be kind of laying it on a little bit too thick with asserting his dominance, because I think on some level he's afraid that Borgin is not going to buy it.
Yeah. No, I think that's fair, that he is realizing that he always had his father to be the one to gain respect from people. Like, that he was relying on his father to be the one to do those things, and now he has to do it himself, and he's like, and like that he was always relying on the fact that his father had status, both in the wizarding world and within the, like, Death Eater dark arts community, kind of, and Borgin is in that dark arts community, so, like, the fact that Lucius has lost status, that he's in Azkaban, that, like, you know, he's not there to help him, I think that's definitely something that's very much in the forefront of Draco's mind, so yeah, I definitely agree.
And Draco then ends with, "Don't tell my mother."
Yes! Just so childish!
So I don't know if I do agree. I think this is Draco on a power trip. Like, you know, it's consistent with Draco's behavior where when he thinks he's hot shit, he just, like, doubles down and triples down. So yeah, I don't think Draco is sort of worrying about, you know, losing his father's influence here. I think he's genuinely on a power trip of his own, because this is consistent behavior for him. Whenever he feels powerful, he always wants to press the advantage, and see what he can get away with. And I think here, finally, he sort of has the power and the, you know, something to back up the way he intimidates people. Like, he finally has, you know, the dark mark or the werewolf bite. He finally has, you know, like, Voldemort's mission behind him. So I read this very much as just, you know, him not worried, but him sort of, like, you know, feeling like a big tough guy and sort of, you know, doing with that exactly what you would think Draco would do with that.
Yeah, I agree completely. But I'm very curious about, do you actually think that he has a werewolf bite, and would it not have been made abundantly clear if that was the case? Okay,
so TLDR on the Draco is a werewolf theory. There is nothing to disprove it. I think that Draco having a werewolf bite is an incredibly elegant theory with a lot of evidence behind it that would actually enrich a lot of moments in the text if it were true. I do think that, in light of the fact that it is 2025 and that the 7th book came out and that Joe Rowling said he's not a werewolf, I think it's fairly clear that he was not...
That would make it clear, yeah.
That he was not intended to be a werewolf. In the writing process, you know, sort of at some point, absence of evidence becomes evidence of absence. But I do think it's a really great theory in terms of, you know, sort of what it tells us about the character, in terms of the way it ties a lot of moments in the text together and a lot of what's said and what's done. So I sort of view it as, Schrodinger's lycanthropy. I will sort of keep looking at the text as if he was and wasn't a werewolf and seeing what we can glean from it.
Thank you very much for clarifying.
Yeah, happy to. But, yeah, sorry, I lost where we were for a second.
Yeah, we were discussing about how this is definitely very much how Draco tries to push his advantage of power play.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was also thinking... that someone wrote something very brilliantly about this in a book that I am waiting for to be published.
Oh, guys, I got in so much trouble after part 1. I
With
wrote
your
up,
editor?
yes, I wrote
Oh
up
my
a
God,
whole.
what did they say?
Well, I asked my editor, I was like, can I add, a couple paragraphs here and there? And they were like, yeah, sure. And then I wrote up a new thing, and then I said to them, and they're like, no, we don't have room for it. I was like, but I want it. And so now they told me that I have to remove something else. So now I have to pick which darling to kill, and, no one has suffered the way I have suffered.
No, I'm so sorry to bring out your pain like this.
Thank you. Thank you. My life is hard.
We will make sure not to say anything else smart for the rest
Please
of the
don't.
episode. How about
Please
that?
don't.
None of our comments are going to be any good.
No, I want no insight going forward. But, okay. So back to Draco insulting Borgin. So when Draco does insult him, and he's like, oh, you stupid little man, Borgin's response, I think, speaks volumes. Because he says, of course not, sir. And then he makes a bow as deep as the one Harry had once seen him give Lucius Malfoy.
Mm-hmm.
And this just shows how thoroughly Borgin's been intimidated by Draco, because it's the first time he calls Draco sir. Even though that was his, default way of addressing Lucius. So this is Borgin being like, well, shit, I guess I'm gonna have to live with this.
Yeah. And also I think Borgin knows how to play the game. He knows how to deal with dark wizards who,
Is on power trips.
yeah, who are on power trips. He knows how to, play the game of being all subservient and yes, sir, of course, sir, you're the best, sir. And then later be like, God, this guy sucks. So I think that it's interesting, to see that he's pulling out those same tricks that he used to deal with Lucius, sucking, to deal with Draco sucking now.
Yeah. But, Sophia, as you mentioned, Draco's achieved it. He's got everything he wants. He's, Borgin is thoroughly afraid of him, and rather than leaving on a triumphant swish of his cloak the way Lucius would, Draco ends on worrying about his mommy knowing what he's up to. After this epic, big, bad, threatening, thing, he's and he ends on, don't tell my mother.
And it's so funny.
It's so funny.
It's so funny, and it's also, it's so childish, because, obviously Narcissa wants Draco to succeed in this mission. She wants him to, and she could be helpful. But he's no, I'm gonna do it by myself. Don't tell my mommy. And it's just so funny that he's just no, I'm an adult now.
It also begs the question of, would Narcissa frequent Borgins and Burkes? It doesn't seem like a shop she would enjoy entering, really.
No,
Does she enjoy anything, really?
And that's a good point.
That's a great question. For her darling Draco, she would have
word could get
often.
back to her.
Yeah,
right?
that's true.
Yeah. And again, the interesting thing is that, when Draco says this, Borgin bows again. Which, really drives home how frightened Borgin is, because, this time he's bowing, and he's don't tell my mommy, and I was bow again, oh, I would never. God, it's sad. It's really sad.
I
But
do
also-
wonder the second time he's bowing, whether he's not mocking him a little.
Yeah. I could imagine that this is his strategy. He bows low enough that, they can't see his expression anymore. So he can make whatever expression he wants to.
I'd say
Oh, I
he's rolling his
love
eyes real
that.
hard.
Yeah.
I love that so
Brilliant.
much. Oh,
Sophia
that's great.
Irvin requested no insights. Come
Yeah,
on.
how dare you? Take it back.
Stop it.
It's just my headcanon. It's not something that needs to go in a book.
I would put it in a book if my
Okay,
publisher-
well,
you're
appreciate
too
it.
smart.
Your
You have too
next
many good
edition,
insights.
your next edition of the book, you can include the rolling.
Yeah.
his eyes
I send off my final edits tomorrow, and then I was like, okay, so now we work on edition 2. I have some
Yeah.
bonus content. Yeah. But yeah, so I think the fact that we end on the whole "don't tell my mother" thing really sort of like, it tells us Draco's character arc for the upcoming book. Like, I think so much of this chapter is really reestablishing who Draco is, and sort of what arc is going to play out. Like, you know, when we meet Draco in this chapter, he opens with, "I'm not a child, mother." And then we end on this childish note of, "Don't tell my mother." And I think it really sort of tells the reader that, like, this is Draco. Like, Draco is suddenly powerful and, you know, important and, like, you know, playing with the grown-ups, but he's still very much a child, and he's going to lose that and be disabused of that innocence as the book goes on.
Yeah.
I do wonder what would have actually happened if Borgin somehow discreetly told Narcissa what happened.
I mean, I think Narcissa would have, like, found a way to get this plan to work much quicker. Because,
Yeah.
right? Like, you know, she clearly loves her son so much, and she would have just, like, she would have been, like, you know, and she has money to spend. She would have, like, found the foremost experts on vanishing cabinets and, like, you know, interviewed them and, like, collected all of their information and brought it back to fix the vanishing cabinet. Like, I think he would have, like, managed this mission much quicker.
Yeah. But it would
Yeah.
also mean that there would be responsible adults in this book that actually took action when it came to their kids. And that's not happening a lot in these books, is it?
No. Well, it's also, like, it's funny because Draco is, like, so desperate to achieve his mission, but he hamstrings himself by removing his two most capable and powerful allies. He doesn't want Narcissa helping, he doesn't want Snape helping. And it's like, boy, you dumb.
And I think that is really proof of the fact that he is such a child, is that, like, that is a very childish thing of being like, no, I'm supposed to do it by myself. It's like a very, like, childish, like, child moving into adulthood sort of thing. Like, teenager thing of being like, I should be able to do this completely on myself. I'm going to prove to everyone that I can do this completely on myself, and therefore I will never get any help from anyone. And it's like, most real adults are like, oh, so I would be killed if I didn't get this done, and my family would be killed. So, like, therefore I need to find as much help as I can and get this done. Like, you know?
This
it's
actually
like clearly
proves
no
that...
real foresight.
Yeah, and it very much proves that Harry, throughout all of the books, is so much more developed and so much more grown up than Draco is, because already in the Goblet of Fire, Harry is like, yeah, so now I'm in this crappy situation and I'm told that I have to do this entire tournament by myself, but I'm gonna need all the help I can get because I know I'm dumb. And Draco is like, oh, this is life and death and I don't need anyone.
But Harry doesn't accept all the help he can get.
No,
he accepts
definitely
help
not.
from people he thinks, like, you know, like, count as his friends, which is, like, Ron, Hermione, and Hagrid, who's not a real adult. But, like...
Are you saying Draco doesn't even think he has friends? That's sad.
But Draco doesn't want help even from his friends or peers.
Well, he does use his friends.
He does,
He
yeah.
uses
No.
Crabbe and Goyle to...
Barely.
Yeah.
It's actually the same thing, where Draco, like, wants help from Crabbe and Goyle, but he doesn't want help from the grown-ups.
But he's not
it's actually a
telling
very similar thing.
telling them what he's doing. And Harry doesn't have grown-ups per se that he can use in book 4, does he?
He uses Mad-Eye Moody and Sirius and Hagrid.
But he does take advice from Mad-Eye Moody, but he's told specifically not to ask for help.
Yeah, but, like, you know, like, if Harry really, like, wanted to, like, use all the resources at his disposal, like, he would go to McGonagall, he would write to Mr. and Mrs. Weasley, like,
McGonagall would
send
never help him.
That's true, she wouldn't have.
Like, he would send an owl to Lupin, being like, hey, Professor Lupin, I gotta fight some dark creatures, can you help? Like, Harry does not really, like, reach out to anyone and everyone he can. He just sort of tries to do it with his, like, tight-knit circle of friends.
Sure, but if he knew that, like, everyone he knew would be killed if he didn't win the Triwizard Tournament or something, then he would have done that, you know? Whereas Draco is in this, like, life or death situation and is like, no. I have to prove that I can do it by myself.
True.
Yeah.
But yeah, I also wanted to just point out, going back to the Fenrir thing, that this is the second name drop we get for Fenrir Greyback, by chapter 6 of the book. And, like, Joe is so good at, like, building up Death Eaters by reputation before we ever meet them. So by the time we do meet them, we kind of share in, like, the characters' reaction to them. Like, when the characters are like, gasp, horror, it's so-and-so, we hate them! Like, the reader is on the same page. So yeah, like, this is a very good example of how she does that with name-dropping Fenrir. And, like, given its 2 name drops by chapter 6, like, attentive readers should have absolutely been like, oh, who is this Fenrir and when are we meeting him?
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. Well, and the whole scene at Borgin and Burke's and, like, this chapter is such an epic, parallel and reflection to, chapter 4 of Chamber of Secrets, Flourish and Blots. Like, Sophia, I think you mentioned it earlier, but, like, really the 2 chapters, like, run in such perfect parallel to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you see Draco with a parent visiting Diagon Alley and Borgin and Burke's, but the order is reversed here. And because it's Narcissa with Draco instead of Lucius, that shows that she's, like, the relevant Malfoy parent, in this story now. Like, Lucius is kind of, you know, not really part of the story anymore. And before, in Chamber of Secrets, Draco's in Borgin and Burke's with Lucius, but he goes alone here, showing his newfound independence, and that he's the one, you know, concocting epic schemes.
Mm-hmm.
And note that it's the second location, where nefarious things get underway. You know, Flourish and Blots in Chamber of Secrets, where Lucius slips the diary, whereas Borgin and Burke's here, where Draco is concocting evil plans.
Yes.
Evil.
Yes.
And also, like, I think what's interesting is in Chamber of Secrets, like, Lucius and Arthur get into a big fight in Flourish and Blots. And in this chapter, Harry and Narcissa almost get into a fight in Madame Malkin's. And I think that it's showing that Harry is sort of taking on that adult role that, like, it was Arthur, but now it's Harry who is standing up to this bigoted Malfoy.
Yeah. Well, actually, like, talk of their bigotry, Lucius and Narcissa both respond to the Grangers specifically with open contempt. Like, in Flourish and Blots, Lucius, like, sees the Grangers, he's like, ugh. And here Narcissa, you know, is horrible to Hermione, as we discussed in the last episode.
Mm.
Yeah.
And my favorite is the parallel language. So, in both scenes, Lucius and Narcissa put their hand on Draco's shoulder in Diagon Alley. That's, like, their move.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, the biggest parallel of the lot is the large black cabinet, which hides Harry from view in Chamber of Secrets, and then blocks the trio's view this time. Like, the text even says it, like, the very same large cabinet was blocking their view, and it's like, okay, alright, we see what you're doing.
And that the necklace is mentioned again, too.
Exactly. It's really, like, this is sort of one of the most, like, perfect, like, rings within the series. Like, these 2 chapters, they're so elegantly done.
Right. And there's the same fear of being seen as, like, having dark objects, too. Where, like, Lucius is coming to Borgin Burke's to, like, sell objects because there have been raids at the Ministry. Raids from the Ministry on different, like, manors and all of that. And in Half-Blood Prince, there's this fear that, you know, the Ministry is very hyper-aware of the fact that Voldemort's back and the Death Eaters are active, and, like, there's this big fear of, like, being seen buying or selling dark objects, and, you know, I think that is an interesting parallel, too.
Yeah, that's a really good one.
Yeah, and also the fact that as you said, Lucius is selling and Draco is buying, but still without bringing it home with them. Removing it from the home and not bringing it into the home because of the fear. That's
Although I'm
good
actually
catch.
not even clear. I'm not even clear if Draco actually buys the Vanishing Cabinet. I could totally see him bullying Borgin into doing all this for free.
Yeah, actually, same.
Because he wants advice on how to fix it,
Yeah.
not necessarily to have to
Mhm.
be in possession of the second one.
No, but he has
Yeah.
definitely paid some amount to reserve the other vanishing cabinet.
Do you think so? Because
I don't think so.
I agree that he should have, but I don't think he did.
I think
Yeah,
just
actually,
Imagine
we don't
somebody
hear
else
money
bought it.
being exchanged. It's just the trio assuming that he bought something.
Yeah.
Good point.
Imagine somebody else bought the second vanishing cabinet, and instead of being in Borgin and Burke's, it was in some random mansion in, I don't know, Kent.
Yeah. Yeah, Hepzibah Smith's granddaughter, who, is also a collector, has this beautiful cabinet amid all her lace doilies. Yeah.
I've never actually understood what a vanishing cabinet is. What
You
is it
get
used
inside
for?
it.
Is it
You
just
vanish,
used for
and
vanishing
you
from
show
one
up
point to
somewhere
another?
else. Yeah.
No, I think it's used for vanishing in general. I think you, toss stuff in there and it vanishes.
Okay.
No, but
I thought
don't
it's
think
more
so.
for the purposes of travel, because
Yeah,
if
me
you
too.
place one in one place and one in another place, say you live in your city house and you have a country home,
Oh.
and you put a vanishing cabinet in each house, and you can instantly appear in your holiday home.
That would be amazing!
Absolutely,
Yeah.
I wouldn't. Now that's the
My
object I
assumption
want
that it
from
was that it was-
today's
yeah.
discussion.
Yes! Oh my god. I could put all my books in vanishing cabinets.
Oh yeah, no, I always imagined that it was specifically for the purposes of traveling from one cabinet to the next, and it might be, yes, for your holiday home. It might be for a safety thing that if a dark wizard comes into your house, you and your family all just shoves into the vanishing cabinet and you show up somewhere else, or your friends, your friend has the pair and you can just show up at each other's house or whatever.
And now I really want the backstory of what happened to that pair of vanishing cabinets. Why is one of them in Hogwarts and where was the other one located? And why was it
Yes.
forgotten?
Yes.
I really want to know the story too. How did it end up in Borgin and Burke's? How did this one end up at Hogwarts?
Yeah.
I mean, I could see it being between Hogwarts and the Ministry of Magic.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's true. That's actually fair.
But yeah,
I
that's
don't
so cool.
know why. Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Filch says that the vanishing cabinet is very rare and valuable. So I don't think it's
Yes.
a common thing.
No, I don't think so either.
Oh, that's so interesting. Yes, no, I would like the full-blown story of the vanishing cabinets.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if any of the listeners want to tell us in the comments where they would put their pair of vanishing cabinets, if they had a pair, let us know.
Well, if you can travel between them, then I would literally just rent a 10 square foot apartment in London. And then I would just pop on over there to see shows and visit Oreo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point, actually. Is there a range limit? How far can you separate them and they would still work?
Huh.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
We want to know all of this.
Absolutely. I would place mine in Newcastle because that's where my best friend is. And I could just be
Aw.
there. Just, pop in, give her a hug, pop out again.
Yep. Oh.
Yeah.
What fantastic
So
technology.
Was
I
it
have
inspired
gone on
by
kind of a-
Narnia? I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, it's not a wardrobe, so.
No, exactly.
But I guess it could have been.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, so I was going to say, I went on a bit of a tangent regarding the hangman's rope. So, would you like me to talk about
Oh,
it?
yes, please.
Or
I
not?
would love that.
Okay. So, our more studious listeners might have read the recommended reading, which was Irvin's essay, Borgin, Burke, and the Half-Blood Prince. In that essay, Irvin writes, I'd love to hear any theories on why there is a sudden surge of things hanging or being suspended in the Half-Blood Prince. So in reference to the hangman's rope. So I was very excited that I've come up with a theory around the symbology of the hangman. And then as I came up with it, then I found that Hogwarts professor's already done it before me. So I found a link to their essay, but I can also still walk you through what I found when I thought that was my idea. My theory is that hangman symbology relates to the tarot card. So there's a tarot card, which traditionally features a man hanging upside down by one ankle and not being upset about it. So, to quote an article about it that I found, it said, the expression on his face, the hanging man, traditionally suggests that he is there by his own accord, and the card is meant to represent self-sacrifice more so than it does corporal punishment or criminality. Then I've also added the picture of the hangman card in the notes, and he does look pretty chill, even though he's hanging upside down by one ankle. In his 1910 book, The Pictorial Key to the Tarot, A.E. White, who's the designer of the Rider-Waite tarot deck, wrote about the Hanged Man card that's about wisdom, circumspection, discernment, trials, sacrifice, intuition, divination, prophecy, and if the card is reversed, it means selfishness, the crowd, and body politic. So, having seen all of this, I think it kind of makes sense because we see a lot of hangman symbology in Half-Blood Prince, including the Levi Corpus spell, which is described exactly as the card looks, except that the person isn't very happy about it. And we do have Dumbledore's eventual sacrifice. We have attempts to teach Harry wisdom and discernment during their private sessions. And we know that Joe is into tarot.
Yep.
We know that there's the lightning struck tower as well. So I thought it was pretty likely, and I was very happy. And I thought that was so clever. And then I found the Hogwarts Professor article, which is called Harry Potter and the Hanged Man Part 3. So you should all check it out as well.
Very cool. That's
brilliant.
That's
Thank
really
you.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yep. Thank you very much for answering my question from 2017. I appreciate it.
I know. I'm just a little bit late to the party, right? I enjoyed finding out about it anyway.
I will never criticize someone for being late because unlike Ron Weasley, I am not a hypocrite. No, that's very cool. I definitely think that Half-Blood Prince is sort of, where Rowling kind of doubled down on the tarot of it all. So it makes sense because, like you said, with the Levi Corpus and with the Hanged Man and all that, like there's a lot of this going around in Book 6.
And there is the pub, I think, called the Hanged Man, isn't it? In the
Yes,
Little Hangleton and
Little Hangleton, yeah.
Very cool. But then the last part of the chapter is Hermione in her starring role as Draco's friend and gift buyer.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Hermione's good at so many things. This isn't it.
No. And still, I really want to comment on the fact that Hermione she thinks so very highly of herself here, and she walks straight into the shop and like, yes, I got this, and starts out with the horrible morning, isn't it? Stop this.
She would not be any good undercover.
No. And we know that she isn't, because despite this early effort on her part, about a year later they allow her to impersonate Bellatrix Lestrange, and that's not her fault that plan almost turns out greatly. I mean, things go a bit askew,
but she's better at Bellatrix Lestrange.
Better, yes, but not great.
Yeah.
And this entire notion that she brings to the table where bad/evil always speaks in negative, it gets me going every time. It's both equally funny and, face-palmingly annoying.
Yeah, she's not very good at acting. Like, she actually is pretty good at thinking on her feet in certain types of situations. It seems like some situations more than others, but
yeah,
like, she can sometimes come up with plans in the moment, but she's not very good at acting. Like,
No.
with Umbridge, like, she
Yes,
comes up
exactly.
with a whole plan to bring Umbridge to the forest and, like, get her
Brilliant
attacked by
plan.
centaurs or whatever.
Bad acting.
Which, yeah, she comes up with, like, in a second, but she's not good at acting. So it's like, she often has the right idea, but not the execution.
Yeah.
But this one, I am curious, like, if you had to go in there, what would you have done? Because I honestly don't know what I would have done differently. Like, she does a terrible job, but I'm not sure what I would have done differently, or, like, what I would have said that would have been actually convincing.
So that was gonna be my rebuttal. Like, before we get into the what would you have done, like, I don't know that Hermione is, like, a genuinely terrible actress. Like, I don't think she's a great one. Like, she's not Draco by any means. But I think that part of the problem here is not just that she's a bad actress, but that she misjudged her character. Like, when we see her as Bellatrix, she's not good until Harry's like, you have to treat people like they're scum, like, you know... Like, once she's told what her character is, she then becomes quite good at being Bellatrix. So I think
she does.
She becomes better.
So I think the problem here is that she went for, like, bright and friendly, which is really not the vibe when you're shopping at Borgin and Burke's. So I think it's a misjudgment, more than a simple lack of skill here.
Yeah. Yeah.
But again,
I
the
agree.
whole
She's not a terrible
horrible
actor,
morning,
but
isn't
she's
it?
not...
Blah blah blah.
Yeah,
I'm
it
so
is.
bad. No. No.
Right. It is weird how cheery she is while also saying that it's a horrible morning. Like,
So
it's
annoying.
a weird mismatch. Yeah.
I love to hate it. I'm sorry. I do.
Yeah. But to Sophia's question, I don't know what I would have done.
Right? Like...
I don't think I would have even went in there. I wouldn't have gone in there because Draco threatened this client to not tell anything to anyone. So why would he tell me?
Yeah.
Also, I think it's too soon. She just pretty much walks in immediately after Draco walks out, and that's very suspicious.
And he probably doesn't see a lot of, like, clients who he's never seen before. Like, I get the sense that this is, like...
And children.
Yes, exactly. Like, all of the old wizarding families, and he's like, who is this person? Yeah, I don't know. I agree. I think she should have just not gone in there. And I wonder, why do you think that Rowling included this in this scene?
Opal necklace.
Yeah. That's the main thing that I think we get out of it.
Yes. Part of it is Opal Necklace. I think part of it is also to show that Hermione is fallible. I think Jo puts in a lot of work to make sure that Hermione, unlike in the movies, is not just, a flawless Mary Sue action figure who can do no wrong. So I think this is actually a good bit of development for Hermione, as in, like, espionage might not be her strongest suit.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
But also it's her confidence as well, because she walks, like, she gives something a go. I mean, she fails.
Yes.
But she also doesn't beat herself up about it afterwards, which I
she
think
just beats
earlier
run up about it.
Yeah. But, like, earlier books, Hermione probably wouldn't have felt that comfortable doing something like this, and then just going, I gave it a go. You do better. If you didn't like it.
I think this is very good character work for Hermione, as well as the Opal Necklace.
Yeah.
Also, her put down of Ron is just one of my favorite things. Next time you can show me how it's done, Master of Mystery. I burst out laughing every time.
It is funny.
Also, if we could just end on this note, Ron and Hermione bickered all the way back to Weasley Whizard Wheezes while under the invisibility cloak. And so there are just these invisible bickering voices making their way down half of Diagon Alley. And I don't think that helps with the atmosphere of fear and apprehension going on there.
Probably not.
They're very
really
argumentative
funny.
ghosts.
That's really funny.
But yeah, that was Draco's detour.
Well, it was mainly
We made it!
not Draco's detour, and
It was a
just
very
a little.
meandering detour for us
Yes.
as well.
Yeah, we really wanted to immerse ourselves in the chapter by detouring as much as we could.
Mm-hmm.
You said, Evan, when we met and went to castles, you used a wonderful word about us walking around castles. What was that word? No, I don't remember.
Schlepping?
Yes, schlepping. We did a lot of schlepping today.
That is a good word.
It's such a good word.
It really is.
But now that we're back in the pub after all the schlepping, what's playing on the pub's jukebox today?
Well, I'm so glad you asked, because today we have Weasley's Whizard Wheezes by Riddle TM, which is just about the only cheerful song they've ever done, to my knowledge. But yeah, it's just them singing about all the incredible merchandise that Weasley Whizard Wheezes has. So give it a listen.
There's a new place in town. It's the most strange and amazing place around. Take a break from your life and let's go and have a good time. Number 93 in Diagon Alley. It's run by the Weasleys and it's got all the jokes that you need. Fighting Umbridge and the Ministry with a healthy dose of you-know-who. We can bring down you-know-who with the Weasleys wizarding wheezes. There's no need to be sad today, 'cause with the Weasleys wizarding wheezes, we can make the Dementors go away.
Well, after a very lengthy detour, we just want to say, Lena, thank you so much for visiting us at the Three Broomsticks. It has been so much fun having you and talking even more about Draco with you than we have recently.
Thank you for having me. I really, truly enjoyed it.
Great. Is there anywhere listeners can follow you online? Is there anything you want to plug?
Well, look for me. My name is Mrs. Oak Grove, or Queen Oak Grove, and Oak Grove means Egelund. So I just translated my last name, and I'm out there, Instagram, commenting somewhere, everywhere, anywhere under that name. So I'm there.
Excellent. Drop your handle in the doc. We'll tag you.
Gotcha.
That's such a great Wizarding World surname. I'm
Oh,
very
it
jealous.
really is.
Thank you. I'm very proud of it.
And huge thank you again to Laurie Young, who bought us this round of drinks at the Three Broomsticks.
Woohoo!
And
Thanks,
thank you, Laurie. We needed it. It was a long detour. And thank you for keeping us watered.
Our throats are parched.
And if you'd like to buy us the next round, head over to patreon.com/3broomsticks with numeral 3 to sign up. You can also help by rating and reviewing us. And if you like our show, don't forget to tell your friends, enemies, pets,
Acquaintances.
acquaintances.
Co-workers.
Yeah, people in the shop, which I have recently done for the first time. I can't believe I have done this.
Wait, really?
Yes, I was talking to somebody in the shop and this came up because I was wearing my chocolate frog earrings. And then it just came up. We were talking about Harry Potter and it came up that, I was like, hey, listen to Three Broomsticks, a podcast that I'm on. And they were like, okay.
That's fabulous.
So, the person from Newry Lush shop, if you are listening, thank you for listening. I enjoyed talking with you.
And listeners, we'd also enjoy talking with you on social media. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, maybe TikTok, I never quite know. Our assorted handles and our email address can be found in the episode description or on our website. We're trying to put out a lot more content on social media. We recently, Sophia and I have been having some big thoughts about Harry Potter that we've been sharing. So those have been fun. And yeah, you can always find us on our website, which is 3broomstickspod.com with the 3 spelled out. You'll find links to the essays we mentioned. You can submit a topic for us to talk about, and you can let us know your thoughts. Tell us which Weasley's Wizard Wheeze you would prefer. Tell us what you think of the episodes. We'd love to hear your feedback.
And next time we meet at the 3 Broomsticks, we'll be discussing plot holes in Harry Potter.
Shortest episode ever. None. Moving on. Except multiplying food. That's the one plot hole.
Oh, it's going to be the return of the Master Carrot.
I feel like we're just going to talk about the Master Carrot in every single episode this year.
Well, it's about time we have got a returning thing on 3 Broomsticks.
Yes.
Because Alohomora has their desk pig, and we have the Master Carrot. I think that's fair.
Yes.
And this was the birth of the Master Carrot, this episode.
Woohoo!
Yay!
Thank you very much for listening. Today I've been Ev.
I'm Sophia.
And I'm Irvin. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time in the 3 Broomsticks.
Cheers!
Give me big old buckets of butterbeer. Give me big old barrels of butterbeer. Give me the drink I love so dear. And another round for my friend right here of the sweet old butterbeer.
This episode of The 3 Broomsticks was edited by Brittany Fisher. The theme song was written and performed by the Faithful Sidekicks. Make sure to check them out at thefaithfulsidekicks.com.
Hopefully Brittany is up to the challenge of splicing all this together.
Yeah, we're not making it easy for her with this one.
No. Sorry, Brittany.
Can just imagine her trying to edit this. Why can't they just stay on topic? Oh my god.
Oh, come on. We're never going to stay on topic. That's part of the job description.